Oh, hello there. I'm just here burning some logs, and I didn't realize you guys are wanting to make some millions. I'm just joking around. Welcome back to Manatee Gaming, guys, and today is episode 3 of the Flip to Wealth series. And I'm actually going to stop fire making and roll on down here and get going with this episode. So, today we're going to be talking about a couple different things. And both these things are pretty useful for making some good money, obviously. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't tell you about them. So the first thing here is volume. So some items in the game have a very high volume, other items in the game have a very low volume, and some things just have like an average volume. So what is volume? How do you find volume? And what am I talking about? So in items such as, let's look in here. Items such as a magic log, for example, is a highly traded item. A U log is a highly traded item as well. Bowstring is a highly traded item. Those are all like really highly traded items. They have a very high volume as far as how many of them are being traded at one time. So volume referring to how many are actually in the Grand Exchange. So with that given, typically if you are doing a flip involving high volume items, then as you probably remember in the previous episode where I said about testing a high volume item, buying them and selling them is usually pretty quick. Also, the margins on higher volume items tend to be smaller. They can sometimes be a little bit bigger margins, but they tend to be a smaller margin, and they tend to kind of like have a pretty tight, overall margin. Like they don't swing too high, they don't swing too low, and a lot of times also. High volume items will tend to stay at a given price for a while, or at least have a very obvious upward and downward climb. An item that would be considered a lower volume item would be something like maybe Agility Potion 4 over here. A 4-dose Agility Potion is a totally random item, and this is something that does not have a very high volume. There's just not very many of these traded in the Grand Exchange, mostly because of the fact that players don't really demand Agility Potion 4. Most people don't use Agility Potion at all, so it's not something that is highly traded. If you look at an example in the Grand Exchange as far as these two items, so let's look at a U-Log. If I was to buy a U-Log, okay, so I bought for 218. And then I'm going to sell a U-Log, and I bet you it's not going to be much different than what I just bought the other one for. Nope, 216. So it's only a 2 GP difference. Now let's compare with our lower volume item, Agility Potion 4. Let's go ahead and buy this for 10,000. It bought for $8.99, and now we're going to throw it in there for 1, and it's sold for 421. So this item starts out at a base price of 420. Something else you can keep in mind too is most items, when they have a higher volume, are not going to buy or sell in the Grand Exchange much beyond their normal price, and like their mid price. And the reason why is because they're very commonly traded. So they'll probably stick a lot along the lines of the mid range. The items that don't really follow mid-range are something like I just showed you where it has a very low volume. As far as how much you pay in the Grand Exchange can be dramatically different than what it actually says for the mid. A great example of this would be like a rare. A lot of rares are very commonly not anywhere near their Grand Exchange mid price, with the exception of some of them that just don't change in value for very often. Like if you look at an Easter egg, an Easter egg typically is going to be right around this price. It's going to be somewhere within probably +5 or -5 million of this price. It's not really going to be anywhere, it's not usually going to be much farther away than that. The only time that this will happen for like an edible item like this, like an edible rare, would be when someone is buying them out. That's about the only time they're really going to go far away. But rares in general can swing up or lower by quite a bit, just because of the fact they're so expensive and that there's just so low a volume that, to give you guys an idea too, what I'm talking about is the Grand Exchange mid price actually has to have, it has to have a lot of activity in order for the mid price to change. So the mid price just doesn't change if there's not very many being traded in the Grand Exchange. A great example of this one is if you look at party hats, and I'm not sure now. They might all have, yeah, they might all be at max price now. But for a while there, you could look in here and you could pick out a party hat. Okay, here's a great example right here. So this one says 2147, 483, 460, but I can still increase the price. And yellow party hats have been above max cash for a very long time now. And so the reason why this one's not showing max cash too is because there's so few traded through the Grand Exchange that it just takes that long for them to update in price all the way. So that just gives you an idea as far as how volume affects the Grand Exchange. So how does that affect what we're looking for? Like how does that affect our flipping? Well, you probably already figured out a couple ways of how it affects flipping, but one of the big ways that volume affects flipping is if you're going to buy, let's say, for example, you're doing Virtus. Say you're going to do, I actually personally did Virtus Robe Legs not that long ago. I'll just tell you guys, I bought them for 19.6 million because the price I bought and sold them is not going to be accurate anymore. I bought them at 19.6 million. I bought 4 of them. I bought 2 of them on 2 of my accounts, and I sold them all for 27 million each. And actually, only took about 5 minutes, which is also crazy. That doesn't normally happen. Typically, something. Well, actually, here let me finish one thought before I continue another thought. So I made 28 million gold in 5 minutes on that flip. The reason why that worked, the reason why they won 19.6 on the buy and then sold them in 27 is because they have such a low volume in the Grand Exchange. Virtus Robe Legs and other Nex items may seem like they're a very common item, but they're actually not that common. They're actually not that many of them in the Grand Exchange at one given time. So yes, they're not as rare as like something, other things that are more rare, but Nex items actually are not as common as you may think they are. So I kind of took advantage of that by having an insane margin of over 7 million on each one. So I actually made more like 30 million in 5 minutes. I guess I miscalculated that a little bit. But the thing is with those is you will have like chats like Flip Chat. Like Flip Chat 1 is like a very common chat that people use, or Nex and SS. Like I know for a fact that both those places you can do like Virtus and stuff like that. And it always drives me nuts when I see them and they're doing prices like, oh, the buy price for Virtus Robe Legs is 19.8 and the sell price is 20.1. That honestly does not make any sense. And the way that people in that flip chat are testing them is by instantly buying them and instantly selling them, or by being extremely impatient and selling them quickly and buying them quickly. For a low volume item, you should never do that. And honestly, if you try to get into items like Virtus or Pernix or something like that, you can make a very large amount of money. But what you need to do is not instant buy and instant sell. Kind of like as I said in the previous video. And a lot of these episodes of the Flip to Wealth are going to stack upon each other, so I really hope you guys watch all of them. That way that you can follow along with everything I'm saying here. But they're going to have a much larger margin than what you instantly buy them and instantly sell them for. So I know for example, actually, okay, so Virtus Robe Legs, if I was to buy one right now for instant price, if I bought one right now, I might get it for 20 million. And then if I sold it right away, I might, maybe mid-price or whatever. So people are like, oh, the margin's only 120,000 or whatever. It's actually really not. And the reason why is because you should be testing stuff. You should be like, just playing around with it. So let's say you're going to buy them at 19,201, a little bit of number here, pop that in. And then, your buy offer should sit here because it is a low volume item. My buy offer for a Virtus piece often is an hour, maybe 2 hours. It's not something super fast, so keep that in mind when you're doing like a low volume item too. Is that your buy should not be fast. If your buy is fast, then you did it wrong. In fact, every time that I buy an item quickly and it's a low volume item, I'm actually really upset about it. Or if I sell them quickly, I'm like, oh damn, that sucks because I probably just lost out on a lot of money. And the funny thing is too is if I have more than one of those, I'll switch the price and then I'll end up being right and I'll be like, oh dang, I actually missed out on a mil on that flip because I went too quick. So let's say my Virtus Robe Legs after about an hour and a half bought for 19.2. then I will actually put the Virtus Rope legs in for sale. Maybe, so if I bought them for 19.2, I'm probably going to shoot for at least a 1 mil margin. And that's something good to keep in mind too, guys. This is the kind of thing that people don't tell you too. Is that on like a tier 80 item like Next items, you can often get a 1 mil or higher margin on Next items. So I would definitely not try to sell for any less than 1 million profit. And if you find that after like a day it just hasn't sold, then that's okay. Just go ahead and scrap it. You know, like sell it for something profitable, or maybe the price went down, and sell it back for what you bought it for, and then just rebuy it again and try again. It's totally okay if you don't get a sale on something. I can guarantee you, that if you try to treat low volume items the way they're supposed to be treated, by taking time buying them and taking time selling them, you're going to make way more money in the long run by doing that. I mean, I have a large amount of money to work with, so something that I will often do is I will actually just keep buying an item. Like I might go in here, and I might go Virtus Rope legs, or maybe Virtus, Virtus Rope tops, legs. I do all the pieces of them sometimes. Let's say, for example, I was going to do Virtus Rope tops, and then I might actually buy like 30 of them, or maybe I might buy 60 of them. So I can very easily afford to buy 60 of these. So what I would do is I would put an offer in there for like 60 of them after I found my buy price. So if I find out that I could buy these at 21.2 million after about an hour wait, then I would just put an buy offer for 60 of them at 20.2 million and then just let that hang out. I will very, very commonly do that on my alts, because if you guys are like familiar with my channel at all, I always say work smarter, not harder. I also always say that don't treat RuneScape like a job. You know, it should be fun. So one thing I don't enjoy is sitting there watching the Grand Exchange forever and waiting for my flips to go. So I might just put an offer for like 60 of them in there, and then as they sell, I'll just take them out, throw them in the sell offer, and then just try to get them sold. I really don't care if they aren't selling and I'm buying more than what I'm selling. That's totally fine with me, because I know eventually I will find my sell price, and then when I find my sell price, I will be selling a whole stack of these, and that's a great way to make money all in one go. Keep in mind with doing that, by buying a large amount of an item at once, like maybe you're buying 110 of them. Well, obviously you could do that in one slot, but if you were to do this, you are increasing your risk. Whenever you hold an item for more than like a few hours, you're increasing the risk of the item possibly dropping. So keep that in mind, that I fully accept the fact that I might lose some money if I'm going to buy a stack of them. But the thing is, though, guys, by using this strategy, like I just explained about how I will put an offer in there for quite a while, you will, in the long run, earn much more than you will lose. But you need to be smart about it, though. You need to look at your graphs, you need to look at the game updates, and be like, hey, is there anything that's going to cause these to crash in the next like week or two? Oh, there's not? Okay, then we're good to go. If the graph is like currently on a dip, and it looks like it's about ready to rise back up, then you're going good there too, because if you buy them at, maybe you buy these Virtus Rope tops at 21.2, and then next week the mid price is 25 million, and you've got a stack of Virtus Rope tops, you just made a ton of money, because they might be selling for higher than that, and who knows, you might make 8, 9, 10 million each. So that's just an example right there, guys. There's a lot of other items that have low volume besides tier 80s that you can totally do. You know what? I think I'm actually going to stretch this into the next episode. So I'm going to go tell you guys a couple more things about low volume, and then I actually did not realize I was going to be able to talk about low volume for the entire episode. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about low volume for this one, and then tomorrow's episode I will actually be talking about the other part of what I was going to put in this video. So another great way to check for low volume, or actually not really check for low volume, but just check for the volume in general, is that if you look on the graphs, so an item that is traded frequently is going to have a very frequent up and down motion on a graph. So if you find an item that has, it looks like an extreme scribble or an earthquake is going on, then that means it's a very commonly traded item, because the price goes up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down, and that was enough to make the Grand Exchange median price change that frequently. Because, like I said, you have to have enough exchanges in order for it to actually change. So if you look at an item that has a more flat graph. Maybe the jaggedness is not quite as much. Like for example, you can look up chopped garlic on like an old school RuneScape wiki, and chopped garlic is a great example because it has a very flat graph. You can also look at a lot of rares too, and they will have a more flat graph that looks like steps. So basically, a low volume item is going to look more like steps on a graph, and then a high volume item is going to look like an earthquake scribble. And that's a great way to find out an item's volume by just looking at a graph. Another way is just to see how fast they buy in the Grand Exchange, because like I said, it's all based on how many are actually in the Grand Exchange. If I, buy a U-log, and okay, let's see. So buy U-log, 219 is an instant buy on that. I'm going to sell it for 216. So theoretically, this U-log should take a little bit of time for me to buy at 218. So let's see how long it takes to buy that item in comparison to, let's see, Sacred Oil. That's definitely an item that has a lot lower volume. 10,000 is an instant buy. I have no idea what the lower is going to be on this one. Probably like nothing. 93.82. So, and let's look at that. The U-log already bought. And then we see the Sacred Oil 4. Let's put like 99.0. Whoops, not that high. Geez. 99.02. And then we'll just let that sit there. So, as you can see, another great way to test it to see if it has high or low volume is by just putting an offer in there that's not an instant buy, but is a buyable price. So U-log's already filled. And I mean, honestly, Sacred Oil is likely going to sit there for a minute unless somebody just dumps them. And the reason why this works to test a volume for an item is because of the fact that volume is based on how many are actually traded. So it should theoretically take a lot longer for the Sacred Oil to buy. And it's already taken longer than the U-log. So that gives you an idea that U-logs have a higher volume than Sacred Oils. Which means that you can test U-logs by instant buy and instant sell. Well, alright guys, I'm just going to, honestly, this freaking Sacred Oil is probably not going to buy for like 20 minutes. I guess I know they have a very low volume. The best way to figure out, like if you're like, I have no idea how to learn about volume, I hope this video helped you, but if you're like still kind of lost, it just takes practice. It just takes practice, learning, figuring out what items are low and high volume. You can always ask people that know what they're talking about. Don't ask like a complete random and expect him to be like the master of RuneScape. But find someone who has a lot of experience with flipping and everything, and they'll be able to tell you if an item is high or low volume. But yeah, just a lot of practice and everything. But I really hope this helps you guys out. Keep in mind probably the biggest thing you should learn from high and low volume, if nothing else, is that how long it should take to buy something. If you're flipping something, or like buy or sell, if you're flipping something high volume, it should go pretty quickly. Like I showed you in the Silverhawk feathers in the last video, that was a very high volume item, and you saw how fast it bought and sold. And you just saw the U-logs how fast they buy and sell. So a high volume item is going to buy and sell quickly. So you should know how long to wait to change your price, because if your prices are not buying, you obviously have to offer more. If the price is not selling, you have to drop your price a little bit. So this gives you an idea how long to wait for that. And then you can imagine items like Third Age or something like that, where there's like hardly any of them in the Grand Exchange. Man, how long would you have to wait for that? So you can, so the next time you go flipping and you're like, hey, my Third Age plate body hasn't bought in like 15 minutes. I wonder if that's long enough to wait. How long should I wait? Well, now you can think about what I just taught you here. And remember that Third Age plate body would be a very, very, very low volume item. And then that means it could probably take several hours, maybe even a day, for you to buy it. All right, guys. I really hope you're enjoying this series. I hope you're enjoying the channel in general. Like always, hit that subscribe button if you're enjoying it, and then hit that like. Also, feel free to check out the Patreon page in the description below. It's honestly it's a great way to support the channel if you're interested in supporting the channel, and then get some benefits for yourself as well. So, all right, guys, I will catch you guys later. I will see you all in the next video. Have a good one.